Hey guys, Mary Meet, and welcome to week 24 of the YouTube Pagan Challenge. And I love this question. This is one that is so good for me because my practice is devotional. Okay, I do work with deities. I don't see the deities as separate beings that are sitting up on high, judging me and watching everything that I do. I feel like they are kind of like archetypal energies that we put our own faces and names on, and we kind of make them make sense to us so that we can work with those energies. Um, but I love working with deities. So this week's question is: how do you know which deity you're supposed to work with or worship? If you're atheist, I'm not. Would you use the image of a deity in any way? So my deities all came to me at different parts of my life and in different ways, because they all kind of have different personalities. Like I said, they're very archetypal energies, so they were bound to act in different ways. So the first was Yemaya. And I was in my early 20s. I was at the beach. I love the ocean. I feel so magical at the ocean. It's really an important place for me. And I was sitting there with my feet in the water, and it occurred to me that the water that I was touching was the same water that, like, Chinese fishermen were touching, off the sides of their boats. Or, maybe African children were playing in that same water at the beach. Or there were penguins in that same water in Antarctica, because it's all connected, right? So I had that moment of just feeling so completely connected and so plugged in. And yeah, it was just amazing. It was just this incredible feeling of connectedness that came over me. And that's when I kind of realized, I started thinking about the ocean as, our mother. We kind of crawled out from the primordial ooze, and yeah, I mean, it really kind of works for me. She feeds us, she takes care of us, she can kill us. And that's when I had a vision of Yemaya. I didn't know who she was, but it was this beautiful goddess, clearly African, but also like green and blue and gorgeous, with shells all in her hair and just beautiful. Um, and she kind of came from the water, and she had this energy where she could embrace you, and I kind of sank into that energy, but it was also a very smothering energy, kind of a drowning, smothering energy where you know that she loves you, she is the mother, she can also kill you. So that was really, really important to me, really powerful. So I had to do some research and find out who she was, and so I've kind of worked with Yemaya off and on since then. So then later in my mid-20s, I was at this place in my life where I was working really hard for a living in a very soulless, unhappy environment, sales support for a big company, and everything came down to money. And everybody was really concerned with what kind of car they drove and what kind of watch they wore, and that's just never been me. Sorry, I just don't care about that shit. And it just had no soul, and I was being asked to do things that I knew were wrong, and I knew that I would get in trouble for, but nobody was willing to back me up. And it was just this time where I had also this surge of this creative energy. I was taking pottery classes. I was painting with acrylics. I was beading. Like I've always been creative, but I just had all this. There was my work life, and then there was my home life, which was fully creative. And so I just kept going back and forth between the dichotomy of, do I want to work and make money and be financially secure, which I'm a Capricorn, that's kind of a big drive for me, or do I want to be authentic and fulfilled and creative? Okay. And I could not find any way to mesh those. Okay. It was either one or the other. And so I've usually opted to go for financial security. I'm in a place now where that choice was taken away from me, basically, by disabilities. So I am very creative now, quietly, slowly creative as I can be, but I do what I can. So that's when I found out, I learned of the stories of Lakshmi and Saraswati. And the concept is that they were both in love with Vishnu, and they were both competing over the love of Vishnu. Well, Lakshmi won, and they were sisters. They were also rivals, And because of that, they can't stand each other. And so you can have the favor of one but not the other. And so it really works as far as that kind of starving artist theme, that you can be creative and expressive. Sarasvati is the goddess of self-expression, of music, of the arts and creativity. Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth and financial security and stability and family. So you can have the favor of one but not the other. So you can choose to be creative and expressive and live this amazing, authentic life. You'll never have a lot of money. You'll never have a lot of that security. Or you can choose to go for security, wealth, abundance, that sort of thing. But you have to give up the time that you would take to be creative. You have to be more focused on the wealth and kind of put all this aside. So you can't really have the favor of both. But damn if I haven't tried. I've really tried to integrate both of those energies and tried to appease both of them. And I don't know, there's always been like just a balance where I've never really, I don't know, I've had the creativity. I've never really gotten on board with Lakshmi, and I've spent a lot more time trying to appease her because, wow, we need money. But yeah, so I don't know, it's really interesting. But when I read that, it just lit my brain on fire. I was like, I knew that this was what I was going through. They didn't come to me like physically as a vision the way that Yemaya did, but it just, everything fell in place. Everything made sense suddenly. So that was my mid-20s. In my mid-30s, younger to mid-30s, I had gotten out of a bad marriage, and I did kind of an adult-oriented podcast where I talked to a lot of people. And I ended up taking on kind of a counseling role because people thought that I knew what I was doing, and they felt like I was easy to talk to. They felt like I maybe understood some of their problems. So I ended up talking to a lot of people who really just needed someone to talk to about sex and about love and about marriages and about things like that. And my marriage had fallen apart, so it's not like I had any great, knowledge there, but it was mostly like a sexual counseling type thing where I was doing this podcast and it was just something that I was into, but this kind of came as a secondary role. So I ended up talking to all these people, and I don't know, that's when I kind of came across the idea of the sacred prostitute and about how sex heals, and sex and love and compassion are really lacking in today's society. And maybe if everybody was getting laid a little bit more, people would chill out and be nicer to each other. It's very simplistic, but so I really got into that idea of the sacred prostitute as a healer. It's not something I pursued. I was not a sex worker necessarily myself, but I have respect for it. Great respect. I don't think I could put that much of myself out there. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. That would be a lot for me. Being an empath, I think that would tear me apart, basically. But I've gotten totally off subject. So I got really involved in that idea, and again, sex and love and kindness and compassion is healing, and that's when Inanna came to me. And it wasn't like she came to me like there was a revelation, like with Lakshmi and Sarasvati. It wasn't like she actually came to me physically, like Yemaya did, but it was just like, I just realized she had been there all along. She was there in everything I was doing. She was like underlying everything that was really important to me at that time. And it was just like, oh, that's Inanna. Like, what have I even been doing? I think I just said Yemaya, but it was Inanna and her energy as a goddess of love, but also of like caretaking. And also, her priestesses in her temples were sacred prostitutes. And yeah, her energy was just so there, and I was just like, oh, hello. It just hadn't occurred to me, but she was very much there. She was very present in my life. So, Hecate. Hecate, I didn't want to be into Hecate because she's kind of ubiquitous. So many witches are into Hecate and the dark energy, and yay, and I was just like, I don't know, mine are a little bit different. No, no, I was writing my novel, and one of my characters is a dedicant of Hecate. And she had this amazing experience of revelation where she found out that she was Hecate's chosen. And as I was writing this, I was having my own revelation, my own holy shit moment where I was really connecting to Hecate through this character and through what I was writing. And I was like, oh God, I just have totally connected to Hecate. I love her energy. I love everything about her. She feels like coming home. And so I have worked with Hecate a lot. She was the last to come to me. I've worked with her a lot because her energy just feels so good and so right to me. And actually even ignoring some of the previous matrons that I've spoken of because I connected so deeply and instantly. Now, as I've mentioned several times before, I'm working with Hecate and Adana as two sides of a coin. So life, death, love, pain, giving away, that sort of thing. Expanding, contracting. There's a lot of duality there, and I really love that, and I love working with that. I feel like I didn't give Anana enough time of her own when I was called to her because as soon as I connected, boom, all this Hecate energy started coming into my life. So I'm trying to balance those energies. Aren't we all trying to balance those energies? And then, just to throw spice onto everything, Cernunnos shows up for me every once in a while. He shows up when I need to reconnect with my wildness. When I have gotten too involved in the daily bullshit, and I'm worried about money, and I'm worried about the house, and I'm worried about various things that I can't control. He shows up when I need to just go into the woods and scream. He shows up when I need to go to a drum circle. Okay, like the primal energy that just shakes you out of all your bullshit and reconnects you to that primal self. He shows up when I go dancing. And again, I've got fibro, I've got arthritis. I should not be dancing. There's no reason in the world for me to do it. And sometimes I'm in bed for 2 days afterwards. But I need that moment of disconnecting with the daily and connecting with something deeper and something more important and more primal. So that's why I do that. So he's not somebody I spend a lot of energy on. I don't really do a lot of offerings for him, but he shows up when I need him. He shows up just to be like, hey, you need to like break all your bullshit down and get to the basis of everything and experience what it is to be very human at the basic level. So mine showed up for me. So that was the original question. How do you know which deity you're supposed to worship or work with? They showed up for me. Like, there was no question. I had to do some research because I didn't know exactly who, Inanna showed up, and she could have been Inanna, she could have been Ishtar, she could have been, and I had to see, like, what that energy really was that I was feeling. Or Yemaya. I didn't know. She was just some ocean goddess, and I had to do the research, but they very much showed up for me, and they very much made their presence known. So, I guess the only thing you can really do is just ask. Ask the universe, who are you supposed to work with? And maybe you're not supposed to work with anyone. Maybe part of your path is to give your time and your energy to all of the deities, anyone who interests you, whether they come to you and make themselves known to you or not. Maybe you're supposed to just flit around and experience everything. Maybe that's part of your path, and that's awesome. That's just as cool as any of the shit that I just talked about. So don't get too wrapped up in the idea that you have to have someone to be dedicated to. Because, if they don't show up for you, there's also a lot of freedom in that, So, I don't know. Just ask, think about the energies in your life. Think about the tides that you're in, because mine was all very tidal. It was all very attached to the time in my life that I was experiencing these deities coming to me. So yeah, so that's it. I don't know if that was helpful. I just was telling my story, so I don't know. Just see who calls you, see who shows up for you, and if nobody does, just go experience everything. So that's it. Blessed be, and have a great day. Bye bye.